Now let's look in more detail at the specifics of verbal play in the bedroom. I've divided these into three broad categories so that we can break it down into pieces and understand them individually. So those are voice commands, and then the reciprocation of that is vocal rewards. Then we have dirty talk, which is a big category in itself. And then third will be instructive verbal communication, where we're discussing with each other how to improve the play. So let's first begin with vocal commands. This is by far the easiest, simplest, and sexiest way to start to introduce words into your sex life. So, as we've talked about many times before, you as the dominant or as the leader, the proactive partner in the combination of you and your lover, are going to need to initiate most of what's going to happen. Right, so we're going to need to be decisive, pull the trigger, get her to come here, get her to turn around, lift her arms up, take her clothes off, get her down on the bed, start to finger her. I'm the active participant that is leading most of the new experiences, let's say. Again, don't think of it like I'm domineering and I don't allow the woman any participation. Of course, she can throw things into the mix, she can take the lead, she can suggest things, she can encourage me. Right, so, and I want to open that dialogue up with her. So that's the kind of third part where we're looking at how do we discuss how to improve the sex that we're having. But you, as the dominant, as the leader, will be the one initiating most things. And so therefore, you have to think about how are we going to initiate them. Can we just do it with touch? Yeah, in many, many cases, we don't necessarily need to say something. But very often, it would be rare where we're adding a vocal command to a physical command would in any way make it worse. Most likely it's going to make it better, right? Simple stuff. Can I turn a woman around without telling her to turn around? Of course I can. And there'll be many times when I will. But, she's facing me, for example, and I want to spin her around so I can give her a spank. Me adding a vocal command to that makes it, firstly, very, very clear. There's no ambiguity. She knows exactly what I want her to do. And she gets an instantaneous sense of this man's in control. He's dominating me, right? Which is a sexy thing, right? So I say, turn around, stick your ass out, right? As I do the physical movement, I'm saying, turn around with downward tonality. Not turn around, maybe. Turn around, clear intent, tonality, stick your ass out, right? So those two vocal commands make it, I could do that without having hands on her at all, which is a really powerful thing to be able to do, right? To start directing a woman around the space, getting her to dance for you or get into poses for you or go and get the whip or the vibrator that you're going to use on her, for example, or the condom or whatever it is that you need. Getting her to be of service to you and to give her clear instructions about what is her role, what are her actions that she needs to do in this specific moment, and then I layer those and stack those over time, right? This makes the flow easy. She can settle into submission because she just has to follow commands. And the commands are simple, clear. Like I don't stack multiple commands. I don't say, come over here, turn around, get on your knees, stick your ass up in the air, shake it 4 times, look at me, no, look up, look down. I start to just bark random orders, many in a row. Then that will be confusing, especially if there's no real reason for it, right? I say, go and stand in the corner and turn around and touch your toes and pat your head, right? So I'm not giving her sexy instructions. I'm just making her do random things, right? So that's not at all what we're looking at here. The vocal command needs to link up with the physical action and it needs to make sense in continuity, right? There's a reason why I'm getting her to come over here, get on her knees and lift her head to look at me, right? So maybe I'm giving her 3 commands in a row. Come over here. She comes over here. And I don't say them all at once. Come over here, get on your knees, look at me. No. One at a time because I'm building anticipation. Come here. Right? So she comes to me. There's that tension of the use of timing and tonality there. Get down on your knees. Or on your knees. Or why don't you get on your knees? Right? Different types of expression and tonality. Look up at me. Right? Why did I do this? There's a reason. I wanted to come here, get on her knees, look at me so I can objectify her and then she's going to suck my dick. Right? So that was the reason. It makes sense. It's very clear to her what she should be doing. And then there is a reward at the end of it, which we'll deal with in a moment. Come over to me, slowly. Get down on your knees. Look at me. My pretty little kitty cat. Gonna do what you're told? Say yes, Daddy.
Yes, Daddy.
Good little girl. You want to think about this in your play. Like, as I said, this is the simplest way. If you're someone who's not comfortable or not used to talking in the bedroom, right? So you don't necessarily feel comfortable instantaneously to start using objectifying phrases, telling her she's your sexy little fuck peach or whatever. At first you're like, I don't know how to do that. That sounds weird. I'm not creative enough for this. Or I haven't practiced this yet. Cool. Don't worry about that for starters. The basics of, dirty talk essentially is this command and then reward, right? So giving girls clear instructions about positioning, but it's not just about like getting her into positions, right? There's so many things that I can give her instruction on. If I'm having sex with her from behind, for example, and there's all sorts of things I can ask her to do then, lift your head up because I want to put the silk tie under her neck. And if I don't ask her to do that, I have to rely on me lassoing her correctly and not getting it over her nose, right? When it makes it so much simpler, better for both of us, and it's sexy. Lift your head up. She's like, huh? Thing over the neck? Oh, that's why. Cool. I put the neck collar on her, for example. And then maybe I want her to lie down, right? So I put my hand on her chest and I say, lie down. Yeah. And then, maybe I get her to put her arm around, give me a hand. And then I put her in a wrist lock, or I get her to reach back and spread her pussy and her ass open, right? So I can just start to manage. And of course, like, I could end up micromanaging everything, right? I'm not giving girls instructions on every rotation of their wrist and every breath. Unless, like, sometimes I might take command of her breathing and tell her to breathe in a specific way because I want us to do some tantra or informal tantra, for example. But it's just that I'll give her enough command that it's clear what to do, but I'm not going to be, every single breath or movement telling her how to do it, because then it's annoying, right? She's like, just let me enjoy it. Okay, you got me in position. That makes sense. That was sexy. And now then I'm not going to tell her like every stroke that she needs to sigh or something like that. Right? So I'm aware that there's always a purpose to the vocal commands. It's in order to get her into a position. It's in order to amplify the experience, the sensation, the pleasure. Like say I'm having sex with her for missionary position and I notice she has her hand like kind of inching towards her pussy, or even if she doesn't, and I'm like, I want to see her touch herself. I will say, touch your pussy. And maybe I'll take the hand at the same time, put it down there and say, touch your pussy, right? So it's very clear what I wanted to do in that moment. And then I'm enjoying objectifying her. And I've increased the pleasure, right? Because she needs some clitoral stimulation in that moment, right? The penetration is not enough for her. She wants clitoral stimulation. Sometimes, or even often, girls, let's say, who are not so comfortable in their sexuality or don't have a lot of good experience with men, might feel like, oh, if I touch my clit, then he might feel offended, right? Like that, I want to get myself off, but like he's not enough. Whereas for me, I'm like, I don't mind if my cock inside you is not enough to get you to orgasm right now. I want us to have pleasure. So anything we can do to intensify that, amplify that, or for you to feel better, let's do that. And I know that often women like to be penetrated and stimulate their clitoris at the same time because that's double the pleasure. So cool, let's make that happen. And by me telling her to do that, it takes away all of the shame or fear or concern that she would have had about, wondering whether, I don't know if I should do this. I'm like, touch your pussy, it's sexy, or it turns me on, or I want to watch you, right? That's very clear, the what to do and maybe even the why in there as well. So then, okay, cool, she feels more feminine, more sexy by following my instructions. Sit on my cock. Now move for me. Touch your body. Sexy little bitch. You like that? You turn me on. Give me that pussy. That's my perfect little girl. Now, there's lots of things that I can request that the woman does with my voice commands, right? So the obvious things is that I'm asking her to move her body around in different ways that I want, right? So to get in certain positions, or to lift her ass higher, or spread her butt cheeks, lift her head up, anything where I'm like directing her physical body in order for that to be better for the next sex position, or to make it more erotic, or to amplify the sensations and so on. Right, so that's the first thing that we're looking at in terms of our vocal commands. But what else can we do with that? We can instruct her to do things to us, right? So I can get her to touch me in certain ways. Like for me, I like when I'm in an intense moment, I like to have a girl bite or squeeze my nipples pretty hard. And most girls, when they do that, like sometimes I'll put a hand on and say squeeze my nipples or bite. And usually they do it pretty soft because they don't want to hurt me, right? And so when she gives her tiny little compression, and I like it like 30% more than that, then I'll say bite my nipple, right? And then I'm kissing her, whatever, and then I say harder, a little bit harder, right? So then I direct the grade of that. Cool. Now I'm teaching her what it is that I like, or whether I get her to kiss me on the neck. Kiss my neck. Bite it. Harder. Fuck you. Good little girl. I find often girls, when they're really in their pleasure, they sometimes forget to touch you back, right? So, like a girl, you might be having sex with a missionary position, and it's not that she's like starfished, but she's in her own zone, and maybe she's touching herself, and she's like just not conscious in that moment. Sometimes I'll just take her hand and put it around me and say, touch me, or like squeeze my ass, or put her hands on my butt and say, push at the pace that you like, right? So she can then regulate the stroke control, for example, right? So there's all sorts of things that I can instruct her to do to me, or to show me, right? Or to be more instructive about what it is that she wants, or instructive about what it is that I want, right? And this comes down to, our wheel of exchange when we're asking or taking, let's say, requesting that someone does something for us. It's really important that you're able to own that, right? Because so many men, if they want a blowjob or they want something specific, they don't ask for it or take it consensually, obviously, but they don't take it, they beg for it, they hint at it, they try and bargain and trade on it, right? So it's like, I go down on the girl and then I'm like, so, how about a bit of that? It's kind of fair, right? Like, yeah, okay, it's fair, but it's not sexy. A woman doesn't want to barter her way through different sex acts. She wants it to be that it feels natural and good for her to serve you. Yeah, she doesn't, because women don't want to give blowjobs or don't want to do extreme acts with men that they have agreed to have sex with when they're just not turned on enough, when they don't really respect him, when they don't feel completely safe, when they don't know that the man knows what he's doing and can look after her within the context. And so in that moment, she might feel like, putting this guy's penis in my mouth is just like, I don't know, it feels vulgar, or I'm just not into that right now. Whereas the same girl who's with another guy, or the same guy who got some training, who makes everything feel sexy, right, is clear about what he wants, what he's giving, what he's taking, then when he says, get on your knees, open your mouth, take my cock in your mouth, right? It's all part of an erotic moment that feels totally right for her. And so then, deep throating and giving like an intense, amazing blowjob is the most natural thing in the world, right? Because as I was talking to one of the models about this, she was saying, giving good blowjobs is really hard when you're not in the mood, right? I found that quite interesting. It's like, then it's work. Then she has to really think about her technique and how to swallow it and so on. But she says, like, when I'm turned on and in the vibe, it just works. Like, it's natural for me to swallow his dick, and for me to give him a long blowjob, it just feels totally right. Okay, so there's obviously a number of factors that will go into play to create that in that particular sexy environment. But one of those factors, absolutely, is ownership of your desire. Being clear about what you want and asking for it or taking it, obviously within the context of consent, in a way that's really sexy, because that's dominant, right? Like a powerful dominant male doesn't beg for blowjobs. He orders them, right? They get delivered to him. Right? I never, ever have any issues with girls not wanting to give me head, whereas I did when I was a teenager and early 20s. And I think back on those times and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, the girl liked me, she was attracted to me in general, but when we got into that particular scenario, I was being like a beggar. Right? I just wasn't, it felt like a covert contract that a nice guy was trying to slip past her, as opposed to a sexy dominant male requesting his pleasure because he is due it. That's a very big difference. So you can start to put this into play in very simple ways, right? You get together with your lover or new lover, let's say you're making out on the couch, you stand up, you take her by the hand, you say, come with me. There we go. We're in voice commands right away. Yeah, or she comes into your house and you say, oh, take your shoes off, make yourself at home. That's that's a command and a request for a clear reason, which is to start undressing her at the doorstep and to make her feel more comfortable so she's not feeling like she's just about to leave. Right? So, okay, and so it improves things for her, assuming that she wishes to be there. If she's like, oh, actually, no, I'll keep my shoes on, then it says to me she doesn't really want to be here, in which case I'm not going to push it, and cool, we'll chat for a bit and she'll probably go. Right? But starting to add these commands, we sit down on the couch and she puts her handbag between me, and I say, put that on the other side. Come sit closer to me. I'm not dangerous. All right? Simple voice commands, building seduction. All right? And so on as we start to get physical and tactile. Like, the one thing, I'll say this, the one thing that I probably won't make a voice command about or request about is to kiss me, if it was the first kiss. Right? So I never verbalize anything about the first time that I kiss a girl. Right? So on the first date or when you're bringing her home or something, because it takes all the power and tension out of it. The first kiss should be built up, the pressure and the tension builds up by the expectation, not quite sure if it's going to happen, what's it going to feel like, and then if I hear say, may I kiss you? Then she's like, oh, okay, the kiss power, that little pulse of sexiness is gone, because I'm like, by the way, there's a kiss coming soon. She's like, okay, buddy, you kiss me. Or, nah, actually, I got to get to work. I should have sock pipe up here, right? So, instead it's like I go in 90%, she comes in 5%, I close the gap, and then the touch of the lips is what releases the tension. Good, right? Don't talk about it. Whereas, let's say I'm with a lover I've been with before, and we're in the middle of play, we've been making out, we've been fucking or whatever, and then I'm fucking her from behind, and then I like take her by the hair, tilt her head back and tilt it to the side a bit, and then I come around and I hold her on the chin, I say, kiss me. Right? So then she comes in and we have like a passionate kiss there, because it's like, I want this kiss. Right? In that moment, then that verbal command is like a hot little moment. Okay, so you want to be aware of that. Stating things out loud can kill the tension or the ambiguity about it, like the sexual tension essentially, depending on what it is. Right? So like, let's say I pushed her down on the bed and I say, spread your legs open wide. Keep your head down, don't look at me. Now, if I then said, because soon I'm going to come up behind you and spank you 5 times and then put my cock inside you, that would probably not be the right thing, right? Because it's like there's a surprise coming, and just so you know, here's what the surprise will be in advance. Okay, now I've ruined that little sexy moment. Instead, I gave, my vocal commands, get down on the bed, spread your legs, don't look at me. Now, the resolution of that is maybe I pull out my flogger, or I go and I spank her, or whatever it is that I'm going to do, right? So then the resolution of the tension happens physically when it was built up verbally, right? So you start to see we have these different options at play that we can do with our simple vocal commands. And it starts to make all sorts of possibilities happen, right? It means that we can very clearly let the girl know how we want her to be, what we want her to do. Then I can start taking verbal command of her in general, like, getting her to dance for me, or to show me how she touches herself, or to undress in a certain way, right? Like she comes in and instead of me undressing her, let's say, because it's a regular play partner, and I say, I want you to undress for me very slowly. Yeah. And maybe I put on some music to assist that, right? And I know that she likes to dance, and so I sit back and I say, I want you to dance for me, undress for me. Take your time though. I'm going to enjoy this. Okay, cool. Like I'm not touching her at all, but I have complete command over her through my vocal commands. Come here, kitten. Sit there. Undress for me. sexy little girl. Yeah, touch yourself. Fuck, you turn me on so much. Turn around. Yeah, show me that little peach. Fuck yes. Sexy bitch. Yeah. Spread your ass. Good girl. Stand up. Stand up. Take it off. Come here. Kiss me. You turn me on so much. You're a good girl. You mind? Now, of course, that's only underwritten by trust and pleasure, right? Women won't follow your commands just because you're commanding. She's not in the military. You're not her employer. She's not beholden to you. So barking orders at a girl doesn't work unless she wants to follow your orders, right? So, and this is a kind of rookie dominance mistake. And that can come from that overcompensation that some guys who get into BDSM or try to become DOMs have, is that they don't feel strong and secure, and so they try to have power over women through these role plays where it's like, I'm in charge, you agreed to me being in charge, so now listen to everything it is that I say, because I'm not really confident enough to have a dialogue, right? I don't trust myself if I let go of my frame or of my rules or of my techniques, because then the woman's at play, right? Then the woman is an unknown quantity, and I don't know how to handle an unknown quantity in a woman. The great lover, the great dominant, is flexible, is supple, right? Is encouraging a dialogue, right? I mean, I've done like really intense domineering role plays before, and personally, I don't like them that much because it really is a performance on my part. It's like I'm doing everything, I'm doing all the work to her it's for her, but it's really, it really is like a performance. Like we're separated in some sense. Now that's fine. I'll do that. If that girl really wants to experience that harsh, authoritarian, forced kind of fantasies, I'll do that from time to time. But the one that's really juicy, in my opinion, or the one that I think that most couples are going to enjoy, is this one where man takes the lead, woman responds. It's dance, right? The man takes the dance partner, starts leading around. She adds flair. She throws in ideas. She gives indications that she does and doesn't like certain things. The man tries different options, gives instructions, gives rewards, adapts and changes. And so therefore, cool, now you and your partner have created your own sexy dance style, right? Based on, the classic salsa or whatever it is, but with our particular flair, our particular use of dialogue, the things that I note when I start using trigger words, things that might arouse a woman, one that sparks, where she's like, oh, that's the one, cool, I note that. Now I'm adjusting my my kind of catalog of words or the use of phrases that work really, really well with this girl. And maybe I threw a testing in of another one. She just didn't like it. I called her a pretty little bitch, and there was a freeze moment. And then I note, okay, maybe she doesn't want me to say the word bitch. Okay, fair enough. Cool. I'll grade that out, or I'll ask her about it later. I'll say, I noticed when we were fucking, like I said, I called you a pretty bitch. Did you find that offensive, or did you not like that? And then she says yes, no, whatever the thing is. And then I've tested something, haven't done any damage, but I've noted, let's say, a partially negative response, discussed it. Now I know, cool. I don't call this girl bitch, whereas other girls love being called bitch. This one likes to be called a cute little pumpkin kitten. And cool, I make note of that, and that's how she's phrased, whereas the other girl likes to be called a nasty, trashy slut whore, and that's her thing. Cool, I can work within that as well. But I have to do that by being adaptable and responsive, right? It's not about, I'm the guy who says orders, you deal with it, this is my show, take it or leave it, because they will, they'll probably leave it. So, the last thing to say specifically on vocal commands is make them very simple and very clear without any hesitation or questioning. Right, so if I want her to go and get the vibrator and use it on herself, and I'm going to watch, okay, for example. In this situation, I don't add any like, do you think you would, or maybe, or how about we kind of stuff, because if she doesn't want to do the thing, and I give her the command, she'll just give me some indication that's not what she wants anyway, right? It's much sexier to give a bold command than it is to have a tentative questioning one and then recalibrate as necessary, right? So I'm like, go over to that drawer, open it, get the purple vibrator. All right, so maybe I break it up like that. So she goes over there, does that. Now get on the bed, open your legs, and touch yourself. I'm going to watch you. All right, so that string of commands, if I gave it to her all at once, sure I could. Grab a vibrator, use it on yourself. That will be fine as well. But you can see by breaking it up, firstly, it makes it very easily. It's step by step, right? And then the other thing is that it gives me time to see her reaction, right? So I'm like, go over there and get that vibrator. And if she's like a little bit like, then I'll say something. Do you feel shy? You want me to get it for you? Or you don't want to use a toy? And then she's like, oh, I'm just a bit shy. So, okay. You lie in the bed, relax, close your eyes, I'll get the toy. Okay, so I adjusted because for whatever reason, her going and getting the toy, lying down, maybe she felt a bit exposed or something. Okay, and I adjusted that. Whereas another girl, she's like, runs over, grabs the vibrator, gets on the bed, starts fucking herself with it, saying, watch me, you dirty fucking asshole, or whatever. Cool. I've been able to adjust to the needs of the moment, right? But I've been very clear about the simplicity of what it is that I want to do. Let's say we've got in the bedroom and she's wearing some complex strappy dress, and it's not in the undressing thing. It's got buckles and loops and ties and whatever else, and it looks expensive. And I'm like, if I try and fuck with that, I'm going to spend 8 minutes. It's not going to really work. So, I'm kissing her, I run down, and then I say, I don't know how this dress works. Take it off, right? So that's, and I don't have to say, do this. I don't have to micromanage, do the strap and the clip and the whatever. It's just like she knows how to take it off. She put it on, I hope. So in that thing, I'm like, I solve a physical problem that would have been probably too difficult and may have broken the flow and not been a sexy moment. And I solve that by switching over into a vocal command, and I say, take that off. Sometimes I do that while I'm getting something, right? So I'm putting the music on or something, and I tell her, I want you to bend over that couch, stick your ass in the air, and wait for me. Don't look at me. Okay, so, because I need to buy a little bit of time because I have to go over and get my ropes or something, get a glass of water or a condom or something like that. So instead of like us having this break in the moment where it's like we're kissing and then the condom's in the other room, it shouldn't be in the other room, but let's say it is. And then I say, oh, just wait a minute. And then I like run out of the room, right? Or, I mean, let's say you suddenly, like you're getting close to having sex, but you really need to pee. And you know that if you start having sex when you've got a bladder full that you'll probably come too quickly, so you need to pee. So if I just say, oh, just wait here, and I disappear, I've broken the trance, right? What is her choices? She can't stay in an erotic, she's not going to stay in an erotic mood by herself while I just said, I'll be back. So she'll just stand there or sit down or whatever, and then the vibe's gone, and then when I come back in, we have to rebuild the vibe. Okay, it's not the end of the world, but is there something better I could do in that situation? Sure. Right, so we're making out on the bed, I'm like, oh, I really have to pee. And then I kiss her, and then I say, you stay here, I'm going to the bathroom. Touch your tits, touch your legs, but don't touch your pussy. I'll be back soon. Right? Cool. I mean, that's just as an example. Right? So I've given her something to do, and something not to do. Cool. So there's a taboo. Don't break the taboo. And if I come back and she's touching a pussy, there will be trouble. Right? So, but it's very clear. Cool. I need to go and get the water or go and do the thing or whatever. You stay here and do this. Relax, breathe, touch yourself, get ready for me to come in and fuck you or whatever it is. Right? So in these ways, we can really start to very simply direct play. We can deal with issues and problems that are coming up. We can untangle physical conundrums that we're just not sure how to do physically, so we solve them verbally. Right? So there's so much that can be done with the verbal commands, And without them, and if you've had sex without ever asking or stating what you want or ordering a girl around or directing the pleasure, then probably watching this video, you can start to see, oh yeah, this could be way better and way easier. Right? It doesn't all have to be this silent movie where everyone is like working on subtle energies all the time and micro expressions and watching for dilation of the pupils and the blush response or whatever. It's like, okay, yes, observe all that and be in tune with yourself, with your body, with her body, with your energies that are exchanging, with your breathing, with your intention. Yes, absolutely. And then add these things that come out of human mouths that we've had for quite some time, just to make it all simpler and easier and sexier when done with the right tonality, right, in conjunction with moves. So it's not that I'm, that the timing works. I don't go like this, turn around, right? It's turn around, right? It's not, lift your chin, it's lift your chin, right? So coordinating action, vocal commands, or deliberately creating space. Come here, stop, don't. Slower. I'm like, I didn't even know what I was going to do. It's like, come towards me, slowly. Stop there, right? So she's coming over to me, right? I'm like, let's create a bit of tension. So she can come right to my lips. Don't you dare. Now say, please kiss me, daddy. Please kiss me, daddy. All right, cool. Directing her to ask me for things. Right, is another cool thing we can do with vocal commands. Right, it's like if we want to get some play going on, and I say, are you going to be my good girl? And she says, yes. And then I say, yes, what? And she's going to guess, yes, sir. That's right. Right, so I start to possibly, it's an option, direct what it is that I want her to say. Right, let's say, we're in a really intense moment, I'm fucking her really hard, and she's out of her head, and I say to her, say, fuck me harder, daddy, sir, master, pumpkin lord, or whatever it is that she likes to call you. And then she's like, fuck me harder, right? So I direct her verbal expression, which helps her to amplify the moment. Get down, stick your ass up. You can take it harder?
Yes.
Good girl. Give me that peach. You take it again?
Yeah.
Say yes, daddy.
Yes.
That's my good little slut. Now, of course, I need to be really aware of how and if that works for her at all. Right? So if I've done my testing early on by giving simple commands or asking if she likes something and she just kind of goes, doesn't really want to engage, then probably that's not the girl that I'm going to then direct what it is that she's going to say. But a lot of girls are very verbally expressive and reciprocal in bed. And so, I say, you're going to be mine. She says, yes, I'll be your little girl. She adds that in, right? And lots of girls will give you the title that they want to be called. Right, they'll be like I've had many girls say that. Would you be my dad? Or have you, had one girl say, could I call you Daddy Cool? Like she's really trying to say, I like calling men daddy. Right, so girls will give you those hints sometimes, especially if they're fairly confident or they feel comfortable and safe with you and they can feel expressive. Then they'll let you know these things. But I can direct in many ways what it is that she feels, thinks, says, and does through my vocal commands, again, which can massively amplify the polarity, the sexiness, the communication, the intimacy, and the power of the overall experience. Now let's look at the reciprocal action to voice commands or giving orders to a woman, which is to give verbal and physical rewards. Because if you're a man who just delivers lots and lots of voice commands and orders, then it just continues to increase pressure. Come over here, turn around. Shake your ass, get on the bed, spread your legs, shake your tits, look at me. No, look that way, look this way, open your mouth a bit more, close it. Right? I just continue to just give orders over and over again without any release of pressure or without any resolution to the challenge that I've applied to the woman. Then it just feels like bullying, really. It's just kind of overbearing. I'm just having orders barked at me all the time. Right? You can think about this in areas where someone has authority over you. If your boss, just rattles off orders to you all the time, barking orders, never with any praise or appreciation or taking the pressure off you or acknowledging your effort, then you feel like your boss is a bully, right? So it is like this for women in the bedroom. And some men, when they get into studying dominance or BDSM, and they think, okay, so a dom is the authority, he gives orders, the woman follows, does what she's told, and so you might think that that's kind of it, right? And like, of course, that's part of it, but that's an incomplete understanding of what we're trying to do when we're putting a woman under verbal pressure or challenging her, giving her orders. So keep that in mind, very importantly to start with, is that I don't just continue to apply pressure on the woman, order. It'll get boring or feel like it's, she's being domineered or you're being a bully. So that's not what we want. What we want to think about this in terms of is, why am I giving the orders? And then once she's complied to my requests, what would be the logical and nice thing to do then? Right, so if I think about a series of orders that I'm asking her to do, come over here, kiss me on the cheek, touch my body, right? Okay, so that's a series of commands. So she comes over, she does those things to me as I've requested of her, and then I want to reward her, right? Because I'm getting her to reveal her skills, I'm getting her to stretch, I'm getting her to do more for me, or to present herself in a more sexy way, or to swallow my cock deeper, or take it in her ass, or all sorts of things that I might be requesting of her. And if she complies and she's a good girl and she does it well, then I need to reward her. Because what that does is it resolves the tension of the pressure you've built by barking orders at her, right? Or gently, smoothly delivering orders to her, right? Remembering that there are all sorts of types of dominance, all sorts of ways that we can express our tonality and our intention. And there is a big spectrum that will work very well, and then there's the other ones that won't work so well if I have upwards tonality and I'm really uncertain, and my orders are weird and don't make any sense in terms of the sexual play. I'm just asking her to go over there and sit down and look at the floor, and she's like, why? Right? Like, how does this help me? Whereas if it's like, go and sit down on the couch over there, close your eyes and wait for a surprise. Okay, I better have something. I better deliver something. I better have a good surprise, right? But, okay, pressure, follow my commands, and then there's an unresolved tension there of like, what's going to happen when the surprise arrives, and then whatever it is that I do, whether I come and, start fingering her or caress her or, give her a massage or start manhandling her, whatever it is, then, okay, now she's getting the physical reward of the pleasant thing that's about to happen, hopefully. Plus, let's give her some verbal affirmation, right? Because part of this is, you can think of this in a way as physical or sexual qualifying. So if we look in seduction, a common mistake that men make with pressure release is they release the pressure on the woman too easily. They don't put any expectation on her. They don't challenge her or get her to invest very much. So there might be a conversation and he's asking, what are you planning to do when you finish your studies? And she says, I don't know, I'll take a year off. And you're like, wow, that's such a bold, brave thing to do, taking some time to yourself to really figure out what you want. And she didn't say any of that. She just said, I'm going to take a year off. She might just be sitting at home watching TikToks and eating Doritos. So I'm the one that's like now making her shitty little story into something amazing, right? So I didn't put any pressure on her. I didn't challenge her, and I validated her for nothing. And guys do that with beautiful women all the time. They're trying to please them. They want to, they want to be agreeable. They don't want to rock the boat because they're hoping that that's going to endear them to her. But for a beautiful woman who has a lot of attention, it has the opposite effect. She knows he's supplicating, trying to please, trying to, be a nice guy, do what he thinks she wants, which is not correct, and so on. And so, me gushing compliments to her for not very much investment doesn't help. Right, so whereas, on the flip side of that, if I asked her some probing questions and I dug in a bit deeper, she said she's taking a year off, and I said, okay, what are you going to achieve in that year? And she says, well, what I really want to do is I want to go to Zanzibar. I've got this orphanage I'm in contact with. I'm going to go and teach English there and help out and, go on safaris and be the first woman on the moon or whatever. So she's got something good. And, she tells me all this after I've probed, and I'm like, okay, tell me more. What's all that about? And then she tells me, and I go, oh, yeah, cool. So do you have any pets, right? So in that moment, I've asked for deep investment, she's given it to me, and then I haven't acknowledged it in any way except to say the word cool, which means nothing. It's just a filler word. Right? So instead, if I was like, oh, wow, okay, so you have thought about this. This isn't just a lazy year on TikTok eating Doritos. You're going to go and make a difference in the world. Respect, right? So that validational phrase showing that I approve of her now that she has proven herself to me is a really powerful position to be in as a man, because it shows that you are the chooser, right? I am the one that, okay, you're beautiful. What else do you have? Tell me some stuff, or reveal something about yourself, or be charming, or be funny, or, I'm eliciting this in some way verbally. And then when she does, cool, I find out more about her. She gives me stuff. She has to think. She has to invest. Then I give her a reward that is, balanced to the degree of investment that she's given me, right? So if it's something really, really amazing and she's really thought about it, cool, I'll give her like a solid validational compliment. And if it wasn't something like that, she's like, oh, I don't know, I think I'll just figure it out. I need some time to see what I want to do in life. Then I would match the release to that. I wouldn't go, whoa, that's fucking amazing. You're a genius. You're going to take time to think about what you want to do. Wow, they should teach that in schools. Okay, so now that's ridiculous because it's too much validation, too much complimenting on that. Instead, I'd be like, yeah, that seems like a cool thing to do, all right? Because then you can go and experiment, make some mistakes, figure things out, and maybe in a year you'll know what you want to do in life. Nice. Okay, so that compliment kind of matches the level of investment or level of enthusiasm that she's given and so on. This is verbal qualifying. Now we take this into the bedroom where, for the most part, men are beggars in the bedroom, right? So they're trying to get the woman to do things or hoping she'll do things for him, that he'll even get laid at all, or he's going to get a blowjob or whatever, that he's coming from the powerless position and hoping she's going to be charitable. Now, when you overall take command of a woman with proper calibrated sensual dominance, and she fits into that, like, so she relinquishes control or she submits to your authority, let's say, even just if it's just for this one play session, then in that case, we can flip that power dynamic of man begging, hoping, to make the woman do that, right? So things like when I say to her, on your knees, look at me, open your mouth, and unlike most men who's like, oh my God, I'm about to get a blowjob, quickly stuffing it in and, hoping she doesn't change her mind. I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Instead, I ask her to beg for my cock, right? Which means my cock's really valuable, right? So open your mouth, look at me, say please. And she says please, and then she gets the dick in her mouth. What a different experience it must be for her, right? From the one where everyone's trying to shove it in her mouth and hoping they're going to get some, to this guy's like, do you deserve the dick? Have you earned the dick? You better ask nicely for it or say please. And then when she gets it, it's a prize, right? Now, I'm not saying that every single time I get a blowjob, I had a girlfriend for many years and like every time she has to beg, because that would be a bit silly, right? Then it would be obvious that I'm trying to just have power over her all the time, right? And then it's very obvious that like, okay, I'm setting up this like kind of uneven power play in order for her to every time have to like verbally submit and verbally beg for my dick or for sex, for example. No, I don't do that every time, but I do it pretty often, especially with new partners, with very submissive partners, with girls that are very beautiful, that have never done that before, right? Like that experience of begging a man, which means that he is dominant over her, which means that he is a high value male, which means that she, she's lucky to get him. Like, let's say that's the emotional or psychological space you would prefer that she's in. In this case, then getting a woman to say please or beg or ask for your dick in some ways or whatever the thing is that you're about to do will be a really sexy moment. Okay, so again, we have our principles, we have our techniques, and we have the ability to calibrate and adjust and shift to the needs of every woman. And when we're with regular partners over time, noting that variety and surprises, things that are unexpected, unpredictable, are going to be elements that keep this fresh, especially if you're in a relationship for months, years, or decades. In order to keep the sex life awesome, then if she knows every time we start having sex, he's going to ask me to beg for the dick. And I'm like, today I don't feel like begging for dick. Today I just want to make love. Or today I want him to go down on me, right? Or I'm just not in that like mood for that super dom sub kind of master slave thing today or right now. Right, so you need to be able to adjust and calibrate and know that, okay, we don't do anything all the time. Nothing. Not a single thing in this product except maybe like the transitional water touches, which I guess kind of blend between every single other thing. That there's no sex scene where I do every single thing the same way, and certainly not when I'm with a girl multiple times. Even if we're doing similar acts, I'll vary them up. I'll start with something different. I'll add in something that she hasn't seen before. I'll start something that she thinks she knows what it is, but then I'll transition it into something else. Right? So the more Lego blocks you have, the more different things you can create with those Lego blocks. The more options you have, excellent. This will add to the variety, especially in your longer term relationships. So now we get the understanding of like, why is it important to take pressure off and reward the girl? Let's talk a little bit more about how that looks or sounds practically. Okay, so as a very general rule, what I will often do is give 2 to 3 commands and then give a reward, right? So don't think of it like it's a mathematical formula and I must do every single time. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's come here and kiss me. And she kisses me and I say, I love your lips. Okay, so I gave her one command and I kissed her, and maybe my affirmation was just a little sigh, or just to say good girl, or that's it, or yes. Right? So okay, it might be single command and reward. Okay, but if I want to intensify the pressure, right? So I want it to do more for me. Okay, so I say, walk towards me very slowly and sexy. Right? So that's okay. It's the command is come here. But there's a way to do it. I want you to walk slowly and sexy, and maybe I add something, look me in the eyes, or shake your breast, or some specific thing that I want it to do for me. Or I'm sitting back on the bed and I tell her, put on music you love and I want you to dance for me. Right? And as she's dancing, then maybe I'm adding instruction to that. Yes, go down lower, lift your ass higher, spread your legs wider. Look at me like you love me. Like you could do all sorts of things. Again, if I just said, 20 of those in a row, okay, she might comply, but it's like, at what point does she feel like, why am I doing this? I'm just keep doing the things that he says. So instead, I say a couple of those, walk towards me slowly. Now move. I want to see your hips shake. All right, and then I'm looking at it, and I'm giving the intent, checking out her ass as she's wiggling for me, and I'm like, I love that peach, or your ass is so perfect like that. Or yes, bend up a little bit more. That's it. Fuck yes. Get on the bed. Shake your ass for me. Fuck yes. I love that perfect peach. Give it to me. Right, so these fairly simple affirmations, the amount of times I've used these, yes, fuck yes, that's it, that's what I like, I love it when you X, right? Those are very common ways that I would be giving those verbal affirmations. Remembering that the tonality and the timing and the intent is what will make it really real, right? Because obviously I could say like, okay, come over here, turn around, that's a good girl, shake your ass. Oh, that's a sexy ass. Like, okay, I mean, if that's your first time and it comes out a bit robotic and a bit like that, so be it. And if she giggles and laughs because it sounds a bit funny, so be it. You can't have a big sexual ego about this stuff, especially as you're introducing new things. If you never really talk much in bed, it'll feel a bit clunky and awkward at first, right? So that's why I suggest keep it simple to rewards and, to commands and rewards, right? Come over here. Oh, you're so sexy. Okay, you could do that, right? One command, one reward, right? Turn around, tilt your ass out. That ass drives me crazy, right? And then I give her a spank to, release the pressure with the verbal thing and then release pressure with a spank, because now I'm into like the ass worship and I'm turned on by a butt. I've let her know verbally. I'm objectifying her in a really hot way, right? It's all about the ass or all about the tits, right? Or other parts of the body or different movements that she's doing, different things she's doing for me, right? So in the same way, if she's giving me head, I can be, loosely just holding the ponytail without directing it too much. And then I can start to apply both physical and verbal commands. Let's say if I like squeeze the ponytail tighter and then I lean my weight a bit and I say, swallow deep, right? So, and I do take it slowly so she has time. And I've already checked and seen where she can handle it. Like when she's doing it herself, I'm noting, all right, she's super good at deep throat. She can take it all without a problem. Or this girl, can do half, or she's struggling with it. Cool, I'll note that. And then whatever deep is for her is what I'll get her to do. Not, porn star deep necessarily. But, all right, for this girl, she goes down 30%, right? And then I say a little deeper, and she gets down another 5%. Cool. And that's her working for me. And then I give her rewards. That's my girl. Or you can take it. It's an encouragement as well as a compliment. You can do that. That's my girl. Just like that. A little bit more. So, sometimes with a upwards tonality, a little more, which is the unresolved tension. That's it. Good girl. Or that's my little kitty. Or fuck, that turns me on so much, right? So many different ways that I can give the verbal affirmation to her. But in this way, what happens is, ideally, you're training her that as she does more stuff that you love in bed, you like her more, and her self-esteem raises. You understand what I mean? Like the opposite of, like you think about another way men might try and get this to happen, right? Is to kind of shame the woman in a way. They'd say, oh, can you give me a blowjob tonight? She's like, oh, come on. Like, I licked your pussy yesterday. And she's like, okay. And then I'm just imagining this horrible scenario. And, she's there or something. And the guy's like, oh, come on, can you do a bit more, do it a bit better? How inspiring is that, right, for the girl? Like, she's like, I don't really want to do this right now anyway. And the way you're saying that to me, making me feel bad about this, like, it's just not an inspiring situation, right? A woman's not going to give you her best because she's obliged to, or because you begged her to, or because you tried to blackmail her or, manipulate her in some way. You're not going to get the best out of her. She will do all those things, deep throating you, taking the ass, strip teasers, all the cool stuff, when it feels sexy for her to do that. That's pretty much it. Right? If she does it for any other reason, then it's not the reason you want it to be. Right? If she is doing it out of obligation or to manipulate you or something, then that's not what you want. You want it that she complies to your orders and commands because she feels sexier and respects you more and is more attracted to you when she does it. Right? So you see the very big difference in those two situations. One is me assuming control, assuming she's going to say yes to things. And of course, girls say no to things, right? I've had girls, and usually they don't just do, oh, not going to do that and break the trance. They just kind of give me a little, or like some hint. Sometimes I pull out, lift my phone and say, oh, this looks so hot. Can I take a photo of you? And she goes, Right, cool. She doesn't want to break the flow, but she's putting a no on that thing. Cool, that happens fairly often. Most other things, I don't get those kind of resistances, but occasionally some girls just don't like giving head, or they don't like giving to head to guys unless they really trust them, for example. It can be, some girls would prefer to give head than have sex because that's less personal and so on, right? But we need to be able to figure that out with each girl and then know that, okay, if I settle into the space where I'm my sensual dominant self, where I am giving her clear actions to achieve that when she achieves them, she gets rewarded and feels better, sexier, more turned on by them, then I'm training her that that's a good thing to do. When James starts giving you orders, follow them because something awesome is about to happen. I'm going to feel even sexier than than 2 minutes ago. Okay, so this is part of your ability to train women, not just in the bedroom, throughout all of seduction, right? So this is something that transfers very, very well from cold approach, meeting girls, going on dates, seduction, and then getting into the bedroom and your sexual skills, is that the vast majority of men are beggars when it comes to women, right? They live in scarcity. They don't know how to get out of scarcity. If they get a chance with a woman, they're needy, pushy, rushed, trying to please her and supplicate, all these different things that just says to her, this man doesn't really deserve me. And it's not about like your value as a human being or any of that. It's just like a beautiful woman who has lots of options is going to choose the guy that turns her on and makes her feel sexy and that she respects. And if you're doing a bunch of stuff that makes her feel the opposite, then she won't. Right? So this physical, verbal qualifying that happens in the bedroom has multiple profound effects. The most immediate one is that she does all this cool stuff that you wanted her to do, and you can direct the way she looks and the angles that she's at. Like when you see girls in photos and porn or whatever, you're like, oh wow, I love the way her butt's tilted in such a way, or she's spread her legs in this way, or she's looking up at a man like she's a little doll and she's, begging for his dick. I want to see all those things in my real life with women in front of me. Cool. Then you can ask them to do that. And if done well and smoothly, then they want to do it because her putting herself into a physically attractive or visually attractive position is hot if she sees your responses, if you are affected by it. Right? And I've talked to women about this before who've said, like I tried to do a striptease for my boyfriend and then he just kind of sat there and didn't make any noise and didn't say anything, and I didn't really feel like he was very turned on by it, so I just stopped and then didn't do it again. Right? If a woman wants to show something to you, present something to you, then give more affirmation than even if you feel like giving it, right? So if a girl decides she wants to do a dance for me, I don't care if she's a professional dancer or if it was a little bit clunky or wasn't as perfectly sexy as, Salma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn. You remember that scene? I remember that. I'm too old. You don't remember that. That was ages ago. But it's like, okay, she's doing her first striptease for me and she's never done anything like that for anyone else, and so it looks a bit awkward, but I'm like, wow, that's so sexy. No, do that one again. I like when you move like that. Like I'm encouraging her, right? I'm helping her to step into her feminine power, to start expressing herself sexually. And when she sees that like I'm hungry for her, and I'm looking at and I've been given absolute permission to check her out like a big, nice cut of meat, and I'm looking at different individual pieces as she's wiggling and looking in the eyes with hungry eyes, licking my lips or like looking at her lips, or like reaching out, even though I don't touch it, but I'm like, oh, I want that. This kind of thing, or just like where it's like, I put on the affectation that I can't control myself. I can control myself. I could sit and watch 50 chicks dance naked all day and just, be fine and normal about it. I could totally handle that and just be like, yeah, whatever. But why would I do that? That's not encouraging 50 chicks to dance for me. Instead, I'd be like, ladies, or lady. So I'm like affected where it's like, fuck, you turn me on so much. All right. So occasionally I'm giving those verbal affirmations. Yes, just like that. Oh, my little sex kitten. All right. These kinds of phrases, this kind of tonality that I'm like clawing at the chair, I'm like I can't control myself, that kind of thing. That's going to make her feel fucking sexy. Now, of course, if I exaggerate it way too much and get way too Italian about it, oh, I can't believe it's so beautiful, then it might be silly, but it's that like she sees the effect, right? Really take that on board, because many men, myself included, through my first, 20 partners, sorry ladies, but they just saw my stern face, breathing quietly, pumping away, off in my own Zen space, because that's what I thought was the way to do it at the time, and it probably wasn't that fun, right? So many men do that. They're just way too constrained, locked up, embarrassed, haven't taken ownership over their sexuality or the noises they make or their ferocity or their wild man, right? So if you can let bits of that out, even just little bits, just intensify the gaze. Stare at her hips while she's moving, or a pussy while she's masturbating and you're watching and jerking off, for example, right? All these moments where it's like a really positive and sexy objectification of the woman. Because make no mistake, all women who have any kind of sex drive at all want to be objectified by their partner, right? So it doesn't mean they want to walk down the street and for every dude to wolf whistle at them and talk about their tits and, just discuss them as cuts of meat. Okay, yes, that's disrespectful because they don't give a shit about who the man is, who the woman is, or what her personality is like or anything like that. But when you're in some kind of sexual relationship and there is an implied or there's an inherent respect already, and you like each other and you know each other to whatever degree that is, and she has complied to your dominance and she feels safe in your space, then yes, she wants to be a sex object, right? And then I can talk about her tits in isolation, or her ass. Sometimes the compliment I give is if I'm with a girl with spectacular breasts, right? Tits that kings would have conquered countries over. You come across those sometimes, and when I do this thing where I'll come up behind them and I'll squeeze the girl's breasts and I'll say, these are the kind of breasts that I need to squeeze at least an hour a day. It would be a waste otherwise, right? That's an awesome compliment to give a girl with great tits, right? Because it's like, they're so good, I need to spend a good portion of my day on them. Yeah, and that's very objectifying, right? I'm only talking about her breasts. Now, of course, if I went up to some random girl on the street and said that, I'd likely get slapped or she'd be offended, and rightly so. But in this context, she's like, yeah, look at my meat. This meat has really affected that man, or her ass, or her pussy, or her lips, or, the curve of her back, right? So like, telling girls particular things that you find attractive about them is really important, because every girl is worried about her body. And I can tell you this is every girl, because especially when I'm with girls that are actually paid to be beautiful, like they're models of some sort, these girls are always insecure about something, right? Their breasts hang a little bit too low, or one's a little bit bigger than the other, or her pussy lips, she thinks they're a little bit big, or the curve of her butt is not as good as that other girl on Instagram whose butt is a little bit curvier, and many other things. It'd be rare to find a woman who's 100% happy with every aspect of her body, no matter how beautiful she is. If you can tell her specifically, right? So I've thought about this. An example. I was in the bath with a lover recently, and so I was lying back, and she was lying on top of me, and I was just fascinated by the way the water level mixed in with her body, and it created these amazing artistic shapes because her curvature is spectacular, right? The way the ripples of the back muscles go into the haunches of the butt, coming up into this like muscle but slender neck. And I was watching that, and I told her that. I said, wow, the way the water and your body connect together is like an artwork. It's amazing. Right? So, and that's not like you've got a nice ass, you got good tits, you're skinny, you're hot, right? Yeah, she's all those things too. But it's like this very specific compliment to you. Right? And like individual parts of women's bodies, get obsessed with them. Some women have a slender neck that comes down into the collarbone that is just so delicate and elegant, right? And so I'll tell a woman that, and not a girl with a big chunky, muscly neck, a woman where that is the case, right? I'll say, I love the way your breasts, whatever they are, I love like they have this teardrop and they just hang way heavily in my hands, or they're tiny little tits, and I say, oh, I love your little gumdrops, these tight little nipples are so sweet and adorable. I just want to bite them off. Right? So kind of regardless, if you're a good lover, think about how Casanova or Don Juan or great lovers throughout history, how do you think they made women feel? How do you think they complimented them and explained what it was about them that turned them on? Was it good tits or not, or nothing? No, it was poetry, right? So now, again, I'm not saying you need to say super poetic things, but saying specific compliments to a girl or specific rewards, particularly when it's about the way she looks and what she's doing at the same time, is a very validating compliment, right? That's where she's like, I feel really sexy. This man finds me really sexy, and I had to work for his attention, which means he's valuable, right? He does get to decide if I'm beautiful or sexy or an amazing sex kitten or whatever, because she feels like she chose him, not the other way around. Like she feels like she had to work for this sex god as opposed to, listening to the pleas of yet another man who's hoping to get some action out of her. Now let's break this down even further, a bit more granular in terms of, specifics of types of terms of endearment that we can give to a woman, types of rewards, let's say. So there's different ways we can look at this. We can have endearment, terms of endearment, right? So very common for couples to give each other pet names, kind of often happens as a kind of organic thing, and it's your special little language that you have between you two, which is cute. And so you can create your own terms of endearment. If, one day you call her a little pumpkin and she loves that. I mean, that's not something I call girls ever, but maybe you said my little rabbit or something, and she's like, I'm a little rabbit, and she likes that, right? She's like, I'm a little rabbit, and that's my term of endearment. And if I said that to 5 other girls, they'd be like, rabbit? What? I'm not a rabbit. It wouldn't work for them, right? But if you can start to play with throwing out these little test terms or itemized terms of endearment to a girl and see how she responds to it, right? So examples are baby, baby doll, kitten, my little girl, princess, angel, rabbit, pumpkin, there could be all sorts of other ones that you guys figure out. But those would be common phrases, common words that most women will identify with some or other of those. Okay, so one I've seen that works like very, very commonly for any girl that's a bit on the submissive side, and particularly if she's more into like the little girl, infantile type of play, then calling her a kitten is dynamite. It's nukes, right? Just saying, my kitten, or my little kitten, or you're such a little kitten, or I love when you purr like a kitten. It just sets off fireworks in a lot of women's heads, right? So but if she's not into it, she probably won't be into it at all, right? So if I say kitten and I don't get any response, she doesn't go or yes, or I'm your kitten, or like, cuddle into me, or you could tell that it was a good response. Then maybe I put it aside, try something else. So things like the word baby. Some girls hate being called baby, right? Because it can feel condescending, right? Hey babe, hey baby, okay, and like especially if I call a girl baby early, like we're on our first date, or we just slept together or something, it can be a bit presumptuous and it could be a bit condescending. However, lots of girls love being called baby, but usually when they have a more intimate space with the guy, and the same type of thing, right, where she's being a bit of a little girl, a bit infantile, submissive, in the power of the man, and so she's his baby. Right? It's not that it's the actual biological child. It's what is a baby like? It's helpless and it's soft and it needs to be cuddled and looked after. Okay, she's my baby. Or baby girl or baby doll. I found those ones to be much more powerful. So you can play with those, check those out, see how it goes. And you're like, well, how do I check it out? Do I just read these off and watch for her response? No, it's like as we're having sex, like what context would it be cool to call her a kitten? If I've roughly got a, hair in my hand and choking her and fucking the shit out of her, calling her a kitten then probably doesn't make much sense. But if we went through that and then, we slowed down and then I'd lay down on top of her, we're breathing together, and then I reward her for the fact that she just took my hard fucking, right? So I said, that felt so good. You're my perfect little kitten. While I'm lying on top of her and we're just in that intimate space, very commonly you'll hear her just purr or like quiver almost, because it has such a powerful emotional effect on her. Okay, so keep those kinds of ones in mind. Things like princess and angel. Again, some girls will hate being called those things, whereas other girls will just fucking love it. Right? So the way I do it is I usually just throw out the most common ones first: kitten, baby doll, and then I see the responses, and maybe a little bit later, I throw in a princess or an angel or something, and then I note, and sometimes I take notes. If you have a lot of lovers, you can take notes. Loves deep throat, angel, kitten, not, bitch, slut. Squirts, doesn't squirt. I mean, that would be good if you've got a lot of lovers and you can't remember all this stuff. But okay, you make certain mental notes that cool. That seems to be a trigger word for her in a really positive way. Now, there's negative trigger words as well. We'll look at in a moment. But then, quite quickly you can navigate and figure out, okay, I've got these little nukes to drop at the right time.